Yeah, the outer color. It's awesome.
Just kidding. How have you been, Danny? I haven't.
You know,
We've been messaging a bit through COVID and stuff, but we haven't seen each other in a long time.
I know. No, things are going great. I really don't think I could be much better. So it's awesome.
That's good to hear. And you recently acquired a son-in-law.
Yes,
How's that been?
yes. It's definitely has taken some getting used to,
Yeah.
um, but that's I guess been the story of my life the last year with having the kids so close together. It's lots of changes have happened. So, but it's great. It's fun to see them happy and starting, the next chapter of their lives together, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
I can't even imagine, honestly. Hats off to you for being calm. It terrifies me to imagine my children
Yeah,
growing up
yeah,
and like going out into the world and stuff.
yeah.
And of course, most of the people in the band will know because two of your children have been with the band before, and of course
Yes.
we've met your other child and your wife because they come to events and stuff. But you
Yep.
got three girls, and so part of the getting used to is just another guy around, right?
Yes, yes. So true. Yeah, to be
In
not
fact,
the only one anymore.
correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, we did a band party over at your place once, and if I remember right, it's you, your wife, your three daughters, and your mother.
Uh-huh.
And so you have been
Yep.
really been the man around for a
Yes.
long time.
Yes. So true.
Yeah. Well, so Danny, I don't want to be too direct, but you've acquired this new son-in-law. How soon can we expect him to learn how to play snare and join
Yeah,
the
I
band?
know. That's what I told Emma. I like, okay, that's your job. We
Yep.
need some snare drummers. So she's they're at school up at Utah State, and so she's gonna start to pipe with their pipe band. And I said, you gotta take Bryce with you so
Yep.
that he can start to pick something up.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I guess we'd take him on anything, really. I mean,
Yes,
snare's kind of the hot topic, right?
I'll
But
say it
anything.
is. Yeah.
Well, good.
He's good. He's a good piano player, so I'm like he's perfect for percussion. If he can play the piano,
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that's a if not a prerequisite for marrying your daughter, at least a strongly encouraged thing. You got to learn
yes.
to play snare. So.
Yep.
Awesome. So Danny, we know you as like this really nice person, a piper. Now our pipe major, pretty cool.
Yeah.
How's pipe majoring been for you compared to what you've done before?
Um, it's definitely pushing me. But I needed something because I've been coming to band, with with my daughters for so long, and now they're off doing their own thing,
Yeah,
and
and we all miss them, of course. But yeah, they're kind of, as you say, they're moving on to kind of other phases of
yeah,
life. So we don't have them in the band right now.
and so it it starts to get difficult to go when
Hmm.
you're the only one,
Hey,
when
and
I'm so used
especially
to.
when you make a trek to get there every time,
Yeah. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make a 45-minute drive, and now
each
I'm
way,
doing it by
right?
myself each way. Yeah. And and so it was good for me just to know that, okay, other people are relying on me. I'm not doing this just for me anymore, which I mean, it brings me, piping just brings me great joy, and the second I get there and I get on my way, it's I think, why in the world did I even hesitate about
Yeah,
coming today?
yeah.
Because it's just so awesome. But so it's definitely pushed me, and um, I wouldn't have volunteered, but Diana was like, "Hey, Danny, you know what? You would be awesome."
Yeah.
And so, she planted that little seed, and I was actually pipe major my senior year at the high school,
Hmm.
when I was in pipe band at Payson, and so. Um, it I don't want to say it feels natural is not the right word,
Yeah,
but
surely it comes with challenges, and no matter
but
what,
but
right?
it's um it it, it wasn't completely unknown, I
Yeah,
guess.
sure.
So it was a little, I knew what I was getting into, um, when I said yes. But I think my biggest motivation was that it it, it pushes me,
Yeah.
and and that push motivates me to to do my own personal practice better and more consistent. Just because I know it's more than just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, surely the two things that will improve any musician's playing are recording themselves so they can see and hear themselves playing, and taking on any sort of leadership position where other musicians are relying upon them.
Yes, that's so true.
And I'm sure it wasn't intended this way, but does it seem to you like this might be a really useful strategy if you ever have a player in your band who's like a really good player and a really great person, you want to keep them around, but maybe some of their motivation changes, like where you had your daughters in the band previously and then they're not playing with the band anymore. Like, okay, before that person disappears on us, quick, put them in a
Yeah.
position of leadership and then they'll
Yep.
have to stay.
That is so true.
So our entire board and all of our musical leadership should just be made up of people who are on the edge, and we just pull them back in.
Uh-huh.
Now you mentioned that you were the pipe major at high school. That's how I met you. Um, how did you come to piping? Maybe give me sort of a chronological story of where did Danny grow up, and what kind of stuff did you do, and when did you first encounter bagpipes, that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's great. So I started. I guess my musical journey started in sixth grade at Payson Middle School, and I started to play the clarinet. And and I don't know why I started the clarinet. If I I don't know that part. I don't know if my parents just said, "Hey, you know what? You're gonna do band. You need to pick something." I don't know that, but I started with the clarinet, and so sixth, seventh, eighth, and then in ninth grade I joined the high school marching band, and immediately fell in love with the the pipers, and
Right. The
at that point in time they were a part of the marching band.
Right. Payson High School was unique in that their marching band had a bagpiping corps.
Yeah, and it just seemed like it was just like this is the most awesome part of this marching band.
Yeah.
They have bagpipes, and at the time the high school marching band was massive. I mean, we probably had 200, 250 students. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just huge. It was, and marching bands everywhere were big. It was just this, the Spanish Fork High, Springville High. They just everybody had a good sized marching band. Anyway,
I'm probably remembering wrong, and you might actually know better than I do, but I feel like 200 or so kids. That's like I feel like that's the size of my whole graduating class.
yeah, it was huge, and it's because too they pulled in that ninth grade.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so we had, I mean, it was 9 through 12, and it was just huge. The drum corps was massive, and then we had the pipe band that was a part of that, and then just this, yeah, it was like it was probably a third of the student body. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was just everybody was involved in band, and if you weren't directly, then one of your friends was, and then we had this huge color guard, um, a rifle corps and a flag corps. I mean, it
Wow.
was, um, yeah. I look at my pictures from then, and it just was crazy. Anyway, so
Hey, and I don't want you to make you feel awkward or anything, but when you look at your pictures, then do you also marvel at the fact that you have not aged a day? Because Danny, I found a high school newspaper from when I was in high school. It must have been 2005 or 2006, right? So like as of today, we're talking what, like 15, 16 years ago?
uh-huh.
Am I doing my math right? Yeah. And there was a picture of you in there because you were a school counselor,
Okay, yeah.
and I was like, oh, Danny looks exactly the same. And it's not that you look like an old man 15 years ago, Danny.
Yeah.
And so congratulations on whatever evil dark secret you've discovered.
Well, hey, thank you.
I don't mean to derail you there, but yeah,
Yeah.
carry on, carry on.
Yeah. Um, so, um, so then second, so at the time, the junior high had a chanter class that was second semester, And
No, but this couldn't have been the class that Don Smith was teaching, was it?
at the time, it was taught by um, uh, uh, the the essentially a couple of the pipers from the high school
Oh, interesting.
would come down and teach it.
I didn't know
So
that.
I think the teacher of record was Connie Erickson.
Oh, that
Uh,
makes sense. Yeah,
she wasn't married at the time. It was Connie Madsen then, and
and because she was like the band director,
she
right?
was the band director.
Yeah.
And but um, it was actually Lynette Tanner or Lynette Etheridge who came down to the junior
Oh,
high and
yeah.
taught the chanter class.
These connections are making sense in my mind. Everything's snapping together. Starting to
Yep.
see the picture. Okay.
Yep. And so Lynette would come down and teach the class, and and then you actually had to try out for pipe band because they had more people than they had pipes.
I've heard of this phenomenon. I've heard that this happened in some like legendary past. Like for me, it doesn't it doesn't compute because it's always been like, please come and join,
Yeah.
please. So
Yeah. And so that sort of gives you an idea of the I guess the impact that band was having on the community at the time. I mean, it was just a big thing. And
is there anything that you can think of that would like? Was there like a really cool movie that came out a summer before about how cool marching band was, or like something in popular music at the time? Like what
I
can we
really
point to and recreate?
I really think it had to do with the with the director, because in the 4 years that I was in pipe band, my or in marching band, so 9 through 12, my first 2 years we had Connie,
Yeah.
and then the next 2 years we had another one, and then it just seemed like they had this progression of turnover. Every other year we got a new band director, and
Yeah.
it just seemed to. But then if you look overall, I mean, all of marching bands now, at least in Nebo district, I mean, some of the high schools don't even have them.
Yeah.
They're just, I don't know. I don't know why they're not the way they used to be. But at the time, prior to Connie, Gary Chatwin had come to Payson and brought this military um, influence to the marching band,
Hmm.
and that's why he brought the pipers in. And it just, I, I don't know. And they were winning, and we would travel, and
Hmm.
just those few things. Everybody wants to be a part of a winning group,
Of course. Yeah.
and of course, if you throw travel in with high school kids,
Yeah.
it was this. I don't know. It was just this powerhouse,
Yeah.
and and then we also had the Nebo Tournament of the Bands,
Hmm.
and so it was a marching band competition um, that was just massive. Bands from all over the state would come, and American Fork and Mountain Crest, and they were these bands that were bigger than us,
Hmm.
and so to watch those and to feel that power resonate through the stadium, and I don't know, it was
That does make a lot of sense. When you have a strong program already, it kind of self perpetuates because then people can see what it could be, and
yeah,
so then
yeah,
they get excited about it, and more people want to join and
hmm
enthusiastically as well.
yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
I think if you compare that to pipe bands, I think we're seeing that almost that resurgence just in our pipe bands in Utah.
Yeah,
If you look at the size of Utah Pipe Band and
Wasatch and
Wasatch and
District, of
District,
course. Yeah.
and they seem to there seems to be this momentum behind them because they're and even with us with Garden Valley, people wanting to come and learn, and it's just fun to I don't know. And I think a lot of that though has to do with, in my own personal opinion, has to do with bagpipes. They resonate with people,
There is
and
something special there. Yeah.
yeah. So uh, anyway, I tried out for the pipe band after taking that chanter class, and I made it.
Yeah.
and and so then, but I didn't ever have my own instrument,
Oh, really?
So I did 10th, 11th, and my senior year. I think the director could see that I was losing my oomph and my momentum a little bit, and so he asked me to be pipe major,
Once again, okay.
and yeah, and it was it I don't it it was just a good thing, But
Yeah.
again, the high school had the instruments, and so there was never really this desire or drive to get my own because
Hmm.
I had a great set of pipes, and but then when I graduated, it it just ended because I didn't have my own set, and then when I was saving for college,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen, and so I just without an instrument, it's hard to keep going.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't want to derail the pipe band specific story, but there right here I'm curious. So like I knew you as a high school counselor.
yes.
So is you say you were saving for college. eh, what happens between those 2 points where you're saving for college and then you are a high school counselor? Did you
Yeah,
always want to do that, or like what kind of path did that take
that's a
you on?
great question. So um, I, I definitely did not always think I was going to be a high school counselor. Um, I, um, I went up to Utah State, and I think I probably changed my major about 5 times within my first
Mm.
year up there. And then I took a psychology class. I think it was we were on the quarter system still then, so I think it was the third quarter of my freshman year up there, and it was like the first class I had taken in college that like resonated with me. And
I don't want you to feel like you have to disclose any family secrets or anything, but I've heard before that that happens because a person encounters tools with which they can dissect and analyze their own life experiences.
I
Um,
think,
do you think
yeah,
that's kind of the case?
oh, definitely. I think you're right on. And yeah, it resonated with me, and I was like, hey, this is me. I need to pursue this. And so I changed my major to psychology, and graduated with my bachelor's and started to work for youth corrections, as a counselor at one of their detention centers. And um, my wife was teaching at the time, and she uh, finished her master's degree, and then the plan was when she finished hers that I would start mine.
Oh, and
And
and sorry, I don't want to derail it, but is there? I feel like I've heard something. Like, when did you meet your wife? Did you go to high school together?
so
Or
we actually did go to high school together.
yeah, that's right.
Yep, she's a couple years older than me, and we both ended up at Utah State, and got engaged and got married up there.
Oh, so did the romance kind of flourish up there at college?
Uh
You like
huh.
you
It
you knew
did.
each other in high school, or at least of each other, and then it was at college that it became a
Yep.
relationship. I
Yep.
see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We actually met in on um, at swim team. Is where we
Oh, so
met
you weren't
actually
just
in high
doing
school.
band in high school. That's
Yep.
oh, and that makes sense because I know at least one of your daughters has been a competitive swimmer, right?
Yep.
Has
Yep.
they
Yep. They
both done
both
it?
were.
They both were. Gotcha.
Yep. Yep. And we all three of them, Kendra and Lydia and Emma, we always did summer swim
Hmm.
with them. And but then at the high school level, Lydia and Emma both swam on the high school team, and so yeah, swimming is definitely a part of our lives.
Yeah.
But that's where my wife and I met officially, was that in swim team.
I
And
know that
then
Kendra has some physical limitations, but can she
uh-huh.
swim
She does.
independently?
She does swim it. Uh-huh. And it's
Awesome.
the one activity that because her physical limitations are essentially the right side of her body just doesn't work as
Hmm.
well. It's definitely her non-dominant side, but in the pool, um, it's almost magical because
Mm.
she uses that weak side almost equal to her good side,
Oh, interesting.
and um, and yeah, so they've been in the water and swimming since before they could walk, you know.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't imagine. I'm sure that's like a very freeing experience to just like have that kind of physical equilibrium and like
yeah,
buoyed up by the water. That's probably
yep,
really
yep.
nice.
So it's wonderful.
Mm.
Hence the reason we have a pool, you know,
Right,
because
yeah.
it's always just been this desire of ours to have that, and just because it's one of those sports that is just it's something you can do throughout your life.
Mm.
You don't need a team, you don't need a you can be very independent with it, and it's just a great
Mm.
physical experience,
And
for your body.
as Kramer on Seinfeld once demonstrated, like you can swim anywhere. There's water all over the place,
Yep,
even a stinky river.
yep, yeah.
So sorry. So then you're working in youth corrections.
Yep. So I'm working in youth corrections. We were actually down in St. George, um, and my wife got a job teaching down there, and so that took us there. And then I got hired by youth corrections, um, and then we just had this desire to be back. We had Kendra, and just had this desire to be back closer to our families, so that we could be closer to grandparents, and so we moved back up to Payson, and I actually switched. I couldn't get youth corrections didn't have openings up here, and so I switched state agencies and went to Division of Child and Family Services,
Mm.
so DCFS, and um, was going to pursue a master's degree in mental health. And University of Phoenix at the time had a school counseling program that led into um, um, a licensed professional counselor track.
Mm.
And so I started that school counseling program, just never with the intention to stop at the master's. I was always going to do that additional year and get my professional license.
And was
Um,
the idea then to like maybe start your own practice?
yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
start my own practice, maybe work for LDS Family Services. I had a couple of people I worked with who had gone down that track, and I thought, hey, that would be awesome, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and so I get going, and I have to do a practicum and an internship for the school counseling piece. And so I lived in Payson, and I knew one of the counselors at the high school, and so I just went up there and said, hey, you know what? Could I come and volunteer and get some of my hours in? And I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And and so
Do you think I'm sure you would have fallen in love with it anywhere because people are people. But do you think there was maybe any was the fact that it was the high school that you'd gone to yourself a did that make it especially sweet, or was that kind of a barrier to get over?
it was definitely a barrier to get over
Yeah.
for me. I still remember the first time walking back in, and because really at the high school I had band was band was the thing that made school doable for me.
Yeah.
And other than that, I just really did not enjoy the high school.
So you walk back through those doors, you smell that
Yeah,
smell,
so to
you hear the
walk, it was
sound.
just like, oh,
Yeah.
this feels so weird to me, you know.
Yeah.
But I quickly got over that,
Yeah.
and there were lots of people um, who who taught me and who I had good relationships with and had good experiences with, and so it quickly became home,
Hmm.
and so um, it was a great spot to be. And after I graduated with my degree in school counseling, the high school didn't have an opening, so I got hired in the district to be an elementary counselor,
Mm.
and then just that next school year, Payson High had an opening, and
Mm.
um, so I of course took that,
And do you remember what year that would have been?
and that was I started with the district in 2002, and so the first graduating class that I was a counselor was the graduating class of 2004.
Mm.
Um, and so the 2003 2004 school year was the year that I was officially a counselor there.
And that was the year that I joined the pipe band, if I remember
Oh,
right.
hey.
Yeah.
So, and then quickly, as the administration used to go with the bands or the different school groups on their trips, they liked to have an administrator go. And so, as a counselor, you're not technically an administrator, but I definitely threw my name in the hat and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
if you need a chaperone to go and help with pipe band stuff, sign me up."
Hmm.
You know, and and so I was able to, to sort of get my hands back in the piping world a little bit then,
Yeah. I
and
that was one of the first times that like I got to know you better was when you and your wife volunteered to go on one of our pipe band trips. I
yeah.
think it was maybe to Denver, maybe Jackson Hole. I can't remember which one it was now. But I do remember I still have a sort of I sort of chuckle about it, but I also feel kind of terrible about it. Kendra was really little at the time, and I was one of the there were like three, maybe four of us that rode in just in your van with you, if I remember
Uh-huh.
right.
Yep. Yep.
Would it have been just Kendra and Lydia, or I'm trying to remember if you
On
had two
that
kids?
particular trip, I think it was just Kendra.
Was it just Kendra? Okay.
Yeah. And she was in a car seat, and
Yep.
so she couldn't sit up front with me. And I think you held her hand like the whole way to
Yeah,
Denver.
yeah, I did, and I'd like to think that that makes up for it. But here's what I feel terrible about: I was trying to get along with her and like be I've always liked kids,
Uh-huh.
and we had some fruit snacks, and I pretended to pull one out of her ear and then give it to her, right? And then
Uh-huh.
I'd pull another one out of her ear and give it to her, and then so it was just like this fun, she'd laugh and then she'd eat it, and it was a fun little trick, just a little magic trick.
Yeah.
But then when the fruit snacks ran out, oh dear. She tried to get more out of her ear. And she was
Oh,
just
that's
little,
great.
so she thought
Uh-huh.
it was real magic and it was really coming from her ear, and she was digging at her ear, and I didn't notice at first, but eventually she started crying. I think she'd actually poked her ear too hard and it hurt her and stuff. I felt terrible.
Oh,
I
that's
still feel
great.
kind of terrible when I think of it, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
But yes, those trips, those are,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep, those are great things. And then uh and then I think at that point in time I started to take I still didn't have my own pipes, but I started to take lessons from Carrie Welton.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Was she teaching the high school band at the high school by then? Is that the
Yes.
connection? Gotcha.
Yes. Yep. And so I'm like, I got to get back into this, and so and then she got busy and had to stop, and it was just sort of this on again, off again thing, and then when Emma was going to middle school, out of elementary, I'm like, okay, Emma, we got to come up with an instrument, and she wanted to play the bagpipes.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, great.
Okay, and I think this is perfect. This is my opportunity to get back in and going. And at the time, they had advertised through the 4-H program after school, or before school, that they were going to do a piping class. And so it was just everything was just lining up perfectly,
Yeah.
for our family to get back into this. And so Diana was actually the one who was going to be teaching this 4-H class. And come to find out, after a month or so into it, I'm talking to Emma and I'm like, so who else is in this with you? And she's like, oh, it's just me. And so here Diana is. I find out she's volunteering her time
Yeah.
because there wasn't a big enough class for the 4-H program to pay for it.
Yeah.
So she's volunteering to come once a week at 7 in the morning.
Right, and she's got what, at least two, maybe three little kids by then.
Yeah, two little kids at the time, and she just to come and teach Emma,
Yep.
and
That is the kind of person Diana is.
yeah, and Emma, of course, one-on-one instruction. She within 9 months, she's up on pipes, and she's just rocking it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
um,
I went and helped Diana with a performance once when like probably shortly after Emma got onto pipes, and I had one of those those weird moments you have when like little kids are not little kids anymore, you know, like
Uh-huh.
because Emma's the same age as my what my I have a lot of siblings, but one of my youngest brothers, like,
Yes. Yep.
you know,
Yep.
quite young, and like I had no offense to Gabe if he ever hears this, but I hadn't like conceptualized in my head that he was like advanced enough to like do real things, you know, like he was still
Yeah.
a kid to me, you know, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
moved out of the house and stuff, so I wasn't present for his progress, you know, the
Yes.
previous few years, and so after the performance, I was like, oh, you know, like Emma was playing like a very strong piper. I was like, oh, this kid's really great, you know, good for her. And then she was like, hey, is your little brother Gabe? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, you're the same age as my baby brother, and you're playing pipes like that? And I had one of those, you know, one of those weird moments where my
Mm-hmm.
mind was suddenly blown, you know. But yeah, she's
Yeah.
a good piper for sure.
Yep. Yeah. And then I went. Um, we were um, the Payson Temple um, dedication and cultural celebration were coming
Oh
up.
yeah, BYU, right?
Yeah, and they wanted pipers to be represented there, and so Emma was up on pipes, and so I took her to like their first rehearsal.
Oh, and this was Connie was overseeing that too, right? So
Yep,
that's kind of
yep,
cool, kind of getting the
yeah,
all stars back together, as it were.
yep, and so we're there, um, and Diana um, and Connie were just like, Danny, you should come and do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't have pipes, I would love to. And Diana's like, well, hey, you know what? Just use one of the high school sets, and we'll get you a kilt, and we'll get you.
Yeah, don't let me embarrass you any more than I already have, Danny. But like, you know, of course you were gonna fit into a high school kilt, like no big deal.
Yeah. So they got me uniformed up and got me a set of pipes, and so I was able to play with Emma at the cultural celebration for the temple, um,
It
and
was Amazing Grace, right?
yep,
With
yep,
but with the concert band backing it up too, which is cool.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it almost felt like I was at home
right,
because
because you had come up through the band thing. That's right.
yeah, and so we had, I mean, obviously, I mean, it was my old band director.
Yeah. Right.
We
Yeah.
had a pipe band. We were playing with a brass band,
Yeah.
and one of the greatest things about our um, the high school band experience when anytime we got back from a performance, we would march out to our own football field, and we would circle up and we would play Amazing Grace
Oh, really? That's cool.
at the end of every performance.
Yeah.
Didn't matter where we were, if we were in Logan or we were over at BYU. When we got home, we would go out and circle up and play Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And
You ever have some of those late nights where like the people who live next to the high school really regret buying a
yeah,
house next to
I'm
the high
sure
school?
I'm sure they were not super
Oh,
happy with
good. The
us.
band is
Yeah, the
back.
band's back. But and so it just again, it just that resonated with me. I was like, you know what, you just have to continue with this. And so um, we I actually went on another band trip. Diana and Zach, and I think there were three pipers, and a couple of snare drummers, and we went to the Denver Scottish Festival,
Yeah.
and um, and we're there, and we're talking about the kids are playing, and Zach and Diana and I are just sitting around talking, and I'm like, okay, how can I? Where's a band I can join? And they're like, hey, you know what? We just started up our own band, and you need to come with us. And so I just started to come to rehearsal with Garden Valley, and
That's
that
the
that
way.
that summer or that winter, I purchased my own pipes, and so then we're to summer of 2016, and we we had a competition set, and the rest is
And
is history, really.
I think that was our first
That was
competition.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
our first competition
Because
season. Yep,
we like started in summer of 2015, but not in time to compete.
yep,
That's
yep.
right. Well, there you go,
So
folks. Evangelize for Garden Valley Pipe Band. You never know if you might pull somebody in.
yep, yep, great stuff. And then it was just it's just a great activity for me to do with my kids, um, and then like I said, now that they're, Emma's in Logan, and actually Lydia, she just graduated with her associate's degree in
Oh, good for her.
cybersecurity,
Wow, that's great. It took me
and
12
I
years to do that. Good job,
yeah,
Lydia.
and I'm like, okay, Lydia, you really need to come up with a hobby because you're going to find yourself with extra time now. You've got work, but you've always done work and school, and
Oh, yeah.
now you don't have school anymore. So, and just 3 weeks ago, she's like, Dad, I think I really want to start pipe band again. And I was just like,
Yes.
yes, yes. It's not like we really need more tenor drummers, but
We
she's a
do
tenor
it. We
drummer,
do,
and
especially if it's Lydia. We
yep,
absolutely do.
yep. So, she's gonna. So it's working. You plant that seed, and anyway, so she's gonna start to come to band with me again, and
Yeah.
so
That's
it's good.
great.
Yeah.
I remember Danny. It must have. Well, let's see. My daughter had just been born, so it was probably 3 years ago. We were doing. You came in and volunteered to do Brigadoon some of the nights that they did Brigadoon
Yeah.
here locally in Orem, and you and I were talking, and it was a beautiful, like, it's one of those moments that stands out in my life because talking with you, it was like you painted a beautiful picture of what I hoped my future might be like. You were just talking about how what it was like to be able to take your daughters with you on that drive to band and to do competitions together, parades together. Just, like, it's great on its own anyway, but to
Yeah.
infuse that family life into it as well. and
Yeah.
and I was just sitting there just imagining, like, I don't want to force my children to do anything. Whatever they do, I'm going to support them. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, do I hope that they
Yeah.
will do it. And so
Yeah.
luckily, just the other day, my son, he has expressed interest before. Early on, my kids have all seemed to, well, the oldest was a bit averse to bagpipes, but they seem interested right now, and I'm hopeful.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine that having sort of seen them come and how beautiful that was, and then seeing your daughters kind of move on, to have Lydia even suggest she's interested again, I'm sure you're ecstatic. I don't doubt it one
Yes.
bit.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Well, that's really awesome. So when it comes to you just got your set of pipes to join the band. I'm just curious, like, what kind of setup do you have?
Uh-huh.
What are you playing on?
So my pipes are RG Hardy, and at the time, um, Zach had recommended them because they had a 5 year warranty
Mm,
on the stocks, and he's like, if you ever have any problem with them because they're brand new, they'll replace them, and um, and I love them. They're a wonderful instrument, and I
yeah,
I have a hide bag, no zipper.
yeah. Is that because you came up back in the day before such newfangled
Yeah,
inventions were a thing?
that's what I was used to,
Yeah.
and that's what Zach played on,
Yep.
and so I, I just did what
you,
he did,
Danny, you just
and
listed exactly my two motivations for everything as well. Is it what I'm used to, and did Zach do it? And if
yeah,
those two things line up, then I do it.
yep, yeah. So that's, and then I remember it took a long time to get them. I ordered them in early January, and it was like April before I actually got them. So they weren't in stock, obviously. So it took me a while, but I remember going over to Zach's house, and he helped me get them all tied in, and there's only been one or two occasions where I wished I had a zipper.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet I could guess what happened on those occasions.
Yep, I lost a drone read, and one of them was actually at Brigadoon.
Oh no, really? Were you
I'm
at a
there. I'm by
performance?
myself. It wasn't during the performance. It was prior to, so I was able to shake it out of my bag and get
Ooh,
it in, get
man.
it in time. But
A panicked
uh,
few minutes, though, I'm
a
sure.
panicked few minutes. That is so true. So um, when we got Emma's set of pipes, we almost exact same setup as mine, but she has a hide bag, but it has a zipper.
Yeah.
So, and that was definitely one thing, because she she started, I think she was in eighth grade when she was on pipes,
Wow.
and she always just had a high school set.
Yeah.
And so we were definitely, we've got to get you your own set before you graduate, Emma, because I know from personal experience
Right.
that once you graduate from high school, life just has a tendency to get away from you. And if you don't have your own set, then
You won't play, of course.
you
Yeah.
won't play.
Yeah.
So the year or two before she graduated, we were able to get her a set and get her set up. And
And was that kind of magical, or is it still where you've played pipes for such a long time, but never owning your own set of pipes? To be able to be like, this is mine. Feel kind of a
yeah,
certain sort of personal connection to your pipes.
yes, it's so true. Yeah, they yeah, they're mine, and you have this awesome sense of pride and
Yeah.
ownership in
Yeah.
your
So
own
true.
set, and it sort of draws you to um and and I think I have this desire to almost to acquire all things sort of piping, and
You're not
Scott,
alone.
and I
Yeah.
definitely think you definitely have been an influence in our family's life in that, because it's like, oh, well, James has
I'm
this, and
setting a
James
bad
can do
example.
this, and James can do this, and it's like, oh, okay, we need to we need to try to get one of those, and we need to.
So my wife would be glad to know that my terrible spending habits are causing others to also fall into bad spending habits as well.
Correct. Yes.
None of us will
Yeah.
have any savings left thanks to bagpipes.
Yes.
Well, that's definitely the case. I can tell you that like my set of pipes are really nothing special. Like in like plain vanilla, really simple set of pipes, but I really love them.
Yeah.
There is some sort of sentimental attachment that happens.
Yep. Yep. I'm
Um,
right there with you.
now, um, Kendra's gonna hasn't been able to, of course, like play the way the other two daughters have been able to. Does she tolerate the pipes okay,
Uh huh.
or she
Yeah.
likes them okay?
Yep. And well, she tells me to go outside.
Yeah.
So if I'm ever playing inside, it's the first thing she says is, "Dad, go outside." But from a distance, yes, she loves them, and um, and especially when we're at a festival,
Yeah, she
um,
enjoys them.
because she just loves people.
Oh, so
And
just surrounded
so
by people
and
moving
so
all
just to
places
be
and stuff.
surrounded by
Yeah.
people, and we all just hang out together as a band under the tent, and that's the kind of stuff that she doesn't say a lot, she doesn't interact, but she just is happy with people,
Yeah. Just kind
and
of soak
so
in it, huh?
it's one of those opportunities where she gets to be with people,
Yeah.
and so she enjoys it, but she definitely wants me to be outside.
Yeah. And what about your wife? Was she inoculated enough to bagpipes having grown up in Payson, or like does she like it too, or is
She
it?
does. She does.
Yeah.
And um she's definitely that motivator, because I'll be like, oh, should I go tonight?
Yeah.
Going back to that. Okay, you know what? I just got home from work and I got to turn around, and she's the one who's like, nope, you got to go.
Mm,
So if I ever falter a little bit, she's the one who pushes me to, because she loves them,
yeah.
and um, loves to hear me play, and I think part of it's too is because she sees the effect that it has on me.
Yeah.
And sometimes life gets heavy, especially if you've got, you know, children with health issues, um, and just life. Life is just life. Life can be hard sometimes, and
Hmm.
it's one of those things that I just brings me great joy,
Yeah.
and so if I ever feel like I don't want to do it, that's when I need it the most.
Yep. Yep.
you know?
Yeah. You described something that's so true for pipe band and for so many other things, that it's like the leaving the house and getting in the car and getting there. That's the hard part. Once you're there, you can see the magic, and
Oh
so
yeah.
it's not just, of course, that your wife loves the pipes. It's that she loves you, and she can
Hmm.
see like you say, what it does to you. I remember shortly after Zach had passed away, Danny Caldwell suggested that we all get together, and there was a small gathering at the Braithwaites, just kind of whoever wanted to come, and we just kind of just to sort of talk and process, that we were missing Zach.
Yeah.
And I remember it did stand out to me then very clearly that Darren was there with Sean, and he was just talking about how for him he'd never really known much about bagpipes before meeting Sean, and Sean wasn't playing when they met either, and so for him it was always kind of like this weird hobby that Sean had previously had. But that after Sean had got sort of back into it and joined in with the band, just that Darren could see so clearly what it meant to Sean, what it was doing to him, and how
Yeah.
positive it was in his life. And it's like we can talk for a long time extolling sort of the uniqueness of the music and the all of the sort of surface level good reasons to do pipe band, but there is a lot of like sort of subsurface level sort of just like deeper value of, I don't know, like, is it community, is it passion? I'm not sure what exactly it all is, but there's something there that surely exists with other sort of activities as well, or passions, but
Yeah.
it's valuable for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I definitely think it's that community or that family feel that just draws people together with piping. We've had the opportunity, um, at least with at least one family member or at least two, for on 3 different years to go back to Nauvoo and be in the Nauvoo pipe band.
Oh yeah.
And again, you're bringing pipers together, a large portion from Utah, but from all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so you bring 10 or 15 pipers and a handful or two of drummers together, and very quickly a family is created.
Yeah.
A piping family, and it's it yeah, it's that common purpose and common passion, and it goes so deep. I think I think it just calls to our spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and we lots of us, if lots of us have Scottish ancestry and Scottish heritage, and I think there's a part of our spirits that that it calls to,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better way to describe it. And so, um, in fact, we just did for St. Patrick's Day rehearsal. Um, we did a couple of little, um, just activities, to grow closer together as a band, and we had people share, if they wanted to, sort of their piping story, and what brought them, and as we talked about that, I just had people raise their hand, if they had Scottish heritage, and
Yeah.
it was I don't think it was 100%, but it was almost,
Yeah.
and I just it just calls to you,
Yeah.
and
There is something about it for sure. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of the inquiries that I get for lessons and stuff like that, it's precisely that. And certainly, I mean, what when it, of course, like, it's kind of a self-limiting sample pool, of course, but like how many weddings and funerals is a piper going to get hired for where that's not the case, of course, but yeah,
yeah,
there is definitely this tight connection between the music and the heritage.
yep,
It's a tradition heavy genre of music and style and like everything about it, whether it's to family heritage or just to military tradition. Like
mm-hmm,
there's just a lot of history built into it.
yeah.
Now, you I you having done the schooling that you've done and sort of the professional interest that you have, I've always been curious, like, to what degree do you think sort of your counseling background, or just the psychology courses that you've looked at and stuff, does that inform your experience in pipe band in any way, maybe especially as a pipe major?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it does. I I mean, it's who I am,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
my education and my experience, and so I do have this, um, I I have this desire help people around me, and to um, to help people achieve the greatness within them, I guess,
Yeah.
and um, to
I
help
sense
them.
in your voice you might feel a little bit uncomfortable with how that might sound kind of corny or something, but don't worry. I think everybody listening can tell that you're being genuine and this is real. Yeah.
Yeah, um, and so that that definitely carries over into um, my pipe band life. And so I feel this, I'm definitely one of the older people in the band as well, but as the pipe major, I want I want people to enjoy rehearsal, and I want it to bring them the same kind of joy and satisfaction that it brings me. And so I I try to think about what kinds of practices from my professional work can I bring to band to just strengthen us. And so one of those things is just that sense of connectedness,
Mm-hmm.
and if we can feel connected to each other. And so I talked about, the activity that we did for our St. Patrick's Day celebration. We practiced a little, and um, but then we just people brought a green treat to share, and then we just sat crisscross in a circle, sort of like
This is the school system
yeah,
training
you
coming out.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just asked people to share, and so um, they all got a packet of M&Ms, and based on the color of M&Ms they had in their hand, they got to share certain aspects of their lives. And because I think the more you know about a person and the more you know about their story, the obviously the more you care about them, and you learn to love them, um, and that that helps bring you to band, and that if you're having one of those days where it's a rough day and you're thinking, okay, what can I cut out?
Mm.
That it's not band, that
Yeah.
I'm going to go there and I'm going to be around people that I love and that I care for, and that care for me. And so I'm going to go because it recharges me, you know, and so I've tried to um, I've tried to definitely build that into my leadership over the last few months, and I think it's working, because people will comment and they'll reach out to me, or they'll message me in Slack and say, hey, you know what, the rehearsal was just great today, or thanks for doing that, or
Yeah.
so it's yeah, that's a very insightful question that you asked. And yeah,
Well,
I
that's
it's
I don't mean to be too leading in the question, but that's exactly kind of what I was hoping you would describe, because I agree with you. I think it is working, and I've been sad that because of COVID we had our new baby and stuff, and so we've been kind of
hmm
I've been especially keeping my distance and just kind of doing stuff did virtually as much as I could, but
yes.
um, I've lamented missing out on your practices, especially, but I think you're absolutely right. Like I've seen it in my own life for sure that the messiness and pain that can come just inherent with life. Sometimes what you need is to be pulled away from that, even just momentarily. And so if you can get to a place like a pipe band practice where you're gonna be given other things to focus on, especially other
Yeah.
people to focus on, it can break the negative cycle in a really
hmm
good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, the terrible feature of the negative cycle is that it makes it seem like, oh, I can't go, or I
hmm
shouldn't go, or something like that.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
need somebody like your wife or your pipe major or something, or something that's gonna give you that push, get you out the door, and
Yeah.
get you to go.
Yep. Yep.
And maybe it's green treats. Maybe that's the motivator.
Yeah.
Hey, and I wasn't there, but I'm gonna guess, did Jeff make some amazing shortbread and just dye it green?
Well, we did have shortbread, but we Jeff is still sort of in the situation that you're in,
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's
and that
been distancing too. That's
he's
right.
still, yeah.
Yeah.
But Scott brought some homemade shortbread
Okay. So
with
Scott's
some
did
green
it.
drizzle.